Welcome back to USA Coin Auctions, Coin Collectors and Treasure Hunters. Today we are diving into one of the most exciting areas of American coin collecting, the legendary Lincoln Wheat Penny. These small 1-cent coins may look ordinary at first glance, but some of the rarest wheat pennies have become major prizes in the collector market, with exceptional examples reaching from hundreds and thousands of dollars into the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and even far beyond. The Lincoln Wheat Cent was produced from 1909 through 1958, and during those decades the United States Mint created countless varieties, key dates, proof coins, and spectacular mint errors. Some of these coins are now among the most desirable Lincoln cents ever made. Today we are counting down 5 of the most valuable and highly sought-after wheat pennies, focusing on the history behind them, their unique characteristics, their rarity, condition, collector demand, and the extraordinary prices that top-quality examples can command. Let's get started. Number 1. The 1927 Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark is one of those classic American coins that can instantly capture the attention of collectors who appreciate early Lincoln cents, historic coinage, and pieces with strong visual character. In today's collectible coin market, a 1927 wheat penny can be an exciting discovery, especially when the coin displays attractive detail and a desirable state of preservation. Because this penny was produced during an important period in American history, it carries both historical significance and collector appeal. If you have a 1927 penny without a mint mark, it is worth taking a closer look at the date, design, surfaces, lettering, wheat ears, and overall condition because these characteristics can make a major difference in how collectors evaluate the coin. For anyone searching through an old collection, inherited coin group, bank box, or personal coin jar, finding a genuine 1927 wheat penny can be a fascinating moment and an excellent opportunity to learn more about classic American numismatics. The Lincoln Wheat Penny was introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, making it one of the most recognizable coin designs in United States history. The obverse features the portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, while the reverse displays 2 wheat ears surrounding the words 1 cent and United States of America. The 1927 issue belongs to the later part of the original wheat cent era, a period when these coins were becoming an established part of everyday American commerce. A 1927 penny without a mint mark was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, where coins traditionally carried no mint letter. This makes the absence of a mint mark an important identification feature rather than a defect. For collectors, identifying the correct date and understanding the Philadelphia origin gives the coin an immediate historical foundation and places it within the broader story of early Lincoln cents. One of the most appealing features of the 1927 wheat penny is its classic Lincoln design and the historic appearance that comes with nearly a century of age. On the obverse, collectors examine Lincoln's portrait, the date, 1927, and the surrounding inscriptions, Liberty, and In God We Trust. On the reverse, the 2 wheat stalks frame the central lettering and provide the coin with its famous wheat cent appearance. On a well-preserved example, the details of Lincoln's hair, cheek, jawline, coat, and the wheat ears can remain remarkably attractive. Collectors also pay close attention to the sharpness of the lettering and the overall balance of the design. A coin with strong original detail can have considerably more collector appeal than an example where the major features have become heavily worn. This is why the visual quality of an individual 1927 penny is so important when determining its desirability. Condition is one of the most important factors when discussing the collectible value of a 1927 wheat penny. A coin described as being in very rough condition may still be historically interesting and desirable as an authentic, nearly century-old Lincoln cent, while examples with substantially stronger detail can move into much more competitive collector categories. For valuable coins, collectors generally look beyond the date alone and examine the entire surface, including remaining design detail, rim quality, lettering, color, marks, scratches, and signs of cleaning or damage. Original-looking surfaces and attractive natural coloration can be especially desirable. At the upper levels of preservation, collectors become increasingly selective because genuinely high-grade early Lincoln cents are much harder to find than ordinary circulated pieces. This creates an important distinction between simply owning a 1927 penny and owning a 1927 penny with exceptional preservation, strong eye appeal, and professionally verified quality. The collector demand surrounding early wheat pennies comes from several directions at once. Lincoln cents are collected by date, by mint mark, by condition, by variety, and as complete series. The 1927 Philadelphia issue can therefore appeal to someone building a complete Lincoln wheat cent collection as well as someone specializing in early 20th century United States coinage. The age of the coin adds another layer of fascination because the piece dates from the 1920s, a period associated with enormous changes in American society, industry, transportation, and culture. Every surviving example is a small physical connection to that era. When collectors encounter an attractive 1927 example with impressive original detail, competition can become stronger because quality examples are naturally more desirable than heavily worn examples. This combination of age, recognizable design, historical importance, and condition-based collecting makes the 1927 Wheat Penny an exciting coin to investigate. When it comes to market value, it is important to understand that a 1927 no-mint mark wheat penny does not automatically sell for hundreds or thousands of dollars simply because of its date. The strongest prices are generally associated with coins in unusually high grades, exceptional preservation, certification, attractive surfaces, and other characteristics that place them in a premium collector category. Ordinary circulated examples may trade for much more modest amounts, while high-quality certified examples can reach significantly higher levels depending on grade and market conditions. In the broader world of Lincoln wheat cents, exceptional pieces can bring hundreds or even thousands of dollars, but those figures should never be treated as a guaranteed value for every 1927 penny. The exciting part is that the same date can have dramatically different market outcomes depending on condition, and this is precisely why serious collectors carefully examine every detail before deciding what a coin may be worth. If your 1927 wheat penny appears to be in very rough condition, do not assume that its age has no importance. Even a heavily circulated coin can be an excellent addition to a historical collection, especially when it is genuine, identifiable, and preserved as part of a complete wheat cent series. Number 2. The 1928 Lincoln wheat penny without a mint mark was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, where coins traditionally carried no mint mark, and this particular issue belongs to one of the most recognizable classic American penny series. Today, collectors continue to search for early Lincoln cents because these coins connect directly to another era of American history, and examples preserved in attractive condition can command premiums far beyond their original 1-cent face value. The exciting part is that the 1928 issue has a fascinating combination of age, classic design, copper composition, historical importance, and condition-based collectability. Professional references list the Philadelphia 1928 cent with a mintage of 134,116,000 pieces, so the real opportunity for collectors is not simply finding any 1928 penny, but finding an especially attractive, well-preserved, high-grade example. To understand why the 1928 wheat penny attracts attention, we need to go back to the history of the Lincoln cent itself. The Lincoln cent was introduced in 1909 and features the famous portrait of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, created by designer Victor David Brenner. The reverse of the classic wheat cent carries 2 wheat ears surrounding the words 1 cent and United States of America, along with the motto E pluribus unum. This design remained a defining part of American coinage for nearly half a century, making wheat pennies instantly recognizable to collectors around the world. The 1928 issue was produced during a period when the United States was still using the classic bronze composition for the Lincoln cent. According to PCGS and NGC references, the coin weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures about 19 millimeters in diameter, has a plain edge, and is composed of bronze, traditionally described as approximately 95% copper with the balance primarily tin and zinc. The 1928 Philadelphia issue is particularly interesting because there is no letter beneath the date. That absence is not automatically an error or mistake. Instead, it identifies the coin as a Philadelphia minted example because Philadelphia Lincoln cents of this era normally carried no mint mark. For someone discovering one in an old collection, that simple detail can be the beginning of a much deeper investigation into the coin's identity, grade, variety, and potential collector value. One of the most fascinating features of this coin is its classic wheat reverse. When you hold a genuine 1928 Lincoln cent under good lighting, the first thing to examine is the overall design and the amount of detail remaining. Lincoln's portrait should be clearly recognizable on the obverse, while the reverse should show the 2 wheat ears and the lettering characteristic of the wheat cent series. The date 1928 is especially important because it establishes the coin's age and place within the Lincoln cent timeline. The lack of a mint mark below the date tells collectors that this is the Philadelphia issue. The original bronze surface can also display different attractive appearances depending on how the coin was preserved. Some pieces develop rich brown coloration over many decades, while exceptionally preserved examples can retain reddish or partially reddish coloration that collectors may value highly. PCGS separates 1928 cents into brown, and red categories, showing how color designation can play an important role in the market for high-grade copper coins. For collectors, these details transform a 1-cent coin into a historical object that can be studied from multiple angles, from design and metallurgy to preservation and certification. Now let's talk about the phrase, very old condition, because age itself is one of the strongest attractions of a 1928 wheat penny. A coin from 1928 has survived almost a century, passing through countless hands, collections, transactions, and historical moments. Imagine how many events occurred during the lifetime of this tiny piece of copper. It was created during the 1920s, a fascinating period in American history, and it remained in circulation while the country moved through enormous economic and social changes. Every surviving example carries that historical connection. For collectors, however, condition is what can separate an ordinary surviving example from an exceptional one. A circulated 1928 Philadelphia cent can be affordable, while a sharply preserved example with strong detail, attractive surfaces, and an impressive grade can become much more desirable. PCGS notes that the 1928 Philadelphia cent is common in circulated grades but becomes considerably more challenging and valuable as the grade rises, particularly at the upper end of the mint state scale. That creates an exciting collector market because the same date can represent very different levels of value depending on preservation. The current market story becomes especially interesting when we move from ordinary examples into exceptional certified coins. It is important to understand that not every 1928 no-mint mark wheat penny is worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. The dramatic prices are associated with coins that possess exceptional grade, color, preservation, eye appeal, rarity at the highest grades, or other collectible characteristics. Current reference data illustrates just how wide this range can become. USA Coin Book's February 2026 estimates place typical circulated 1928 Philadelphia cents at modest values, while uncirculated examples are estimated around the low tens of dollars and potentially higher depending on grade and condition. At the same time, the high-end auction market tells a much more exciting story. PCGS records an auction result of $22,800 for a 1928 Philadelphia Lincoln cent graded MS68RD, sold by Heritage Auctions on January 19, 2025. This is exactly why collectors should never judge an old coin solely by its face value or by its average circulated price. A spectacularly preserved coin can enter a completely different market category, where advanced collectors compete for the finest known or finest available examples. The brown examples also demonstrate how condition and certification can create substantial differences in value. PCGS records an auction result of $3,120. Number 3. The 1939 Lincoln Wheat Penny with no mint mark, especially an example described as being in uncirculated condition. This classic wheat penny is one of the fascinating coins from the late 1930s, and its appeal comes from its age, historic design, original copper composition, and the possibility of finding an exceptionally preserved example. The first thing every collector should understand is that the absence of a mint mark on a 1939 Lincoln cent is completely normal, because coins struck at the Philadelphia Mint did not receive a mint mark. In 1939, Philadelphia produced approximately 316,466,000 Lincoln cents, making the no mint mark version the Philadelphia issue. But here is where the story becomes much more exciting. Although the date itself was produced in large numbers, exceptionally preserved examples with strong original surfaces, attractive red color, sharp details, and high professional grades can command dramatically higher prices than ordinary circulated examples. Professional auction records show just how powerful condition can be for this date, with PCGS recording a remarkable $36,000 auction record for a 1939 Lincoln cent graded MS68 plus red, sold by Heritage Auctions in January 2025. So, if you have a 1939 no mint mark wheat penny sitting inside an old collection, coin album, inherited box, or forgotten group of cents, this is exactly the kind of coin that deserves a much closer examination. To understand why this coin attracts collectors, we have to travel back to 1939, a fascinating period in American history. The United States was still experiencing the effects of the Great Depression, while the world was approaching the beginning of the Second World War. The Lincoln cent itself had already been part of American life for 3 decades, having first appeared in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth. The design was created by sculptor and engraver Victor David Brenner, whose portrait of Lincoln appears on the obverse. The reverse displays the famous wheat ears surrounding the words 1 cent and United States of America, along with the motto E pluribus unum. The wheat reverse design remained on the Lincoln cent from 1909 through 1958, making these coins an important part of classic American numismatic history. The 1939 issue therefore belongs to one of the most recognizable and collectible periods in the entire Lincoln cent series. Its composition was also characteristic of the era, approximately 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, with a diameter of about 19 millimeters and a standard weight of approximately 3.11 grams. Holding one of these coins today means holding a genuine piece of pre-war American history, and that historical connection is one reason wheat pennies continue to attract collectors around the world. Now let's focus on the most important identification feature, the missing mint mark. Many people see a date such as 1939 and immediately assume that a missing letter means something went wrong during production. In this case, however, that is not the situation. A genuine 1939 Lincoln cent with no letter beneath the date is normally a Philadelphia mint issue. Philadelphia coins of this period generally carried no mint mark, while cents from Denver and San Francisco were identified with D and S mint marks respectively. That means a 1939 cent without a mint mark is not automatically an error coin. Instead, it represents the Philadelphia issue. This is an important distinction because collectors learn to separate a legitimate minting characteristic from an actual mint error or variety. The fascinating part is that the Philadelphia issue has its own strong collector following, especially when the coin is preserved in a high grade. PCGS lists separate 1939 varieties by color designation, including brown, red-brown, and red, and it also identifies 1939 double-die obverse varieties, creating additional opportunities for specialists who carefully study their coins. Therefore, when examining a 1939 no-mint mark wheat penny, the absence of a mint mark is only the beginning. The date, surface quality, strike, color, preservation, possible variety, and professional grade all contribute to the coin's overall desirability. The phrase, uncirculated condition, is where this story becomes especially interesting. An uncirculated coin is generally one that has not experienced the normal wear associated with circulation. Instead of having flattened high points and extensive surface friction, a high-grade uncirculated wheat penny can retain sharp details and attractive original surfaces. For a copper coin such as the 1939 Lincoln cent, collectors pay close attention not only to the grade but also to the coin's color designation. A brown coin, often designated BN, can be attractive in its own right, while red-brown and especially red examples can receive stronger attention when they retain desirable original coloration. The finest examples are particularly exciting because very high grades become progressively more difficult to locate. PCGS's current information for the 1939 red issue lists survival estimates of roughly 17,000 examples at MS60 or better and about 12,000 at MS65 or better, while its condition census includes coins reaching MS68 and above. This demonstrates an important principle of coin collecting. A large original mintage does not mean that every surviving coin is equally available in exceptional condition. Collectors compete for the best preserved examples, and the finest pieces can occupy a completely different part of the market from ordinary specimens. The visual appeal of a truly exceptional 1939 wheat penny can be extraordinary. When the surfaces are original and well preserved, the coin can display a warm copper appearance, strong Lincoln portrait details, clear lettering, and beautifully defined wheat ears on the reverse. Collectors examine Lincoln's hair, cheek, jawline, and the lettering around the portrait, while the reverse receives equally careful attention. The wheat stalks should be examined for definition, and the words 1 cent and United States of America should be clear and well preserved. The overall surface is also critical. Collectors look for original luster, attractive. Number 4. If you have ever looked through an old collection, inherited a jar of coins, or searched through vintage wheat pennies, there is a good chance you may have come across a 1946 Lincoln wheat penny without a mint mark. At first glance, this small 1-cent coin may look like an ordinary old penny, but its age, classic wheat reverse, post-World War II history, and potential for exceptional condition make it a fascinating coin for collectors. The 1946 Philadelphia issue was produced in a massive quantity of 991,655,000 pieces, yet truly attractive, sharply struck, high-grade examples are considerably more interesting to serious collectors. Professional coin records also show that exceptional examples can reach dramatically higher prices than ordinary circulated pieces. PCGS lists a 1946 Philadelphia wheat cent with an auction record of $736 for an MS-67 Brown example, while its population information shows that very high grades become increasingly difficult to find. So today, we are taking a closer look at the 1946 wheat penny without a mint mark, especially an example described as being in very good condition, and we will explore its history, identifying features, collector appeal, condition, market values, and the exciting possibility that a particularly outstanding specimen could be worth far more than its original 1-cent face value. This is exactly why old wheat pennies continue to attract attention from collectors around the world. The story of the 1946 wheat penny begins at an especially important moment in American history. The year 1946 was the first full year after the end of World War II, and the United States was transitioning from wartime production back toward peacetime life. The Lincoln cent had already become one of America's most recognizable coins since its introduction in 1909, featuring Victor David Brenner's famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and 2 wheat stalks on the reverse. The 1946 issue continued this classic design and was struck in the traditional bronze composition used for Lincoln cents at the time. The Philadelphia Mint produced 991,655,000 examples of the 1946 cent, while Denver produced 315,690,000. San Francisco produced 198,100,000. The absence of a mint mark on the 1946 coin is therefore not an error by itself. It identifies the coin as a Philadelphia Mint issue because Philadelphia cents of this era did not carry a mint mark. This is one of the first details every collector should understand when examining the coin. When you look below the date and see no letter, that absence is an important identifying characteristic of the Philadelphia version, not something that automatically indicates a rare minting mistake. Now let's talk about the unique features that make the 1946 wheat penny such an appealing piece of American numismatic history. On the obverse, the coin displays Abraham Lincoln facing right, with the words, "In God We Trust," above his portrait, "Liberty," positioned to the left, and the date 1946 below. The area beneath the date is particularly important because this is where a mint mark would appear on coins produced at Denver or San Francisco. On a genuine Philadelphia 1946 cent, there is no mint letter in this location. Turn the coin over and you see the famous wheat reverse, with 2 wheat ears framing the inscriptions 1 cent and United States of America, while E pluribus unum appears above. The coin measures approximately 19 millimeters across and weighs about 3.11 grams, with a bronze composition of approximately 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin. These characteristics give the coin its unmistakable classic wheat penny appearance. For collectors, the combination of the 1946 date, Philadelphia origin, traditional bronze composition, and iconic wheat reverse creates a piece that represents an important chapter in the history of American coinage. The condition of a 1946 no-mint mark wheat penny is where the conversation becomes particularly interesting. A coin described as being in very good condition has experienced noticeable circulation, but important design details remain visible. Collectors use standardized grading systems to evaluate how much wear a coin has experienced, and even seemingly small differences in preservation can have a major effect on market value. A 1946 Philadelphia cent in ordinary circulated condition generally has a modest value, with published guides showing values around the cents to sub-dollar range depending on the exact grade and source. For example, USA Coinbook's February 2026 update lists the 1946 Philadelphia cent at about 6 cents in fine condition, 12 cents in very fine, 24 cents in extremely fine, 43 cents in about uncirculated, and around 74 cents to $2.50 or more in uncirculated grades. But the real excitement comes when collectors encounter exceptional pieces. PCGS notes that the 1946 Philadelphia cent becomes difficult to find at MS65 and higher, with MS67 described as particularly tough. This huge difference between a normally circulated example and a superb certified specimen is one of the most important reasons coin collectors pay close attention to condition. When people hear the words rare coin or valuable penny, it is important to understand that rarity can mean different things in the collecting world. A coin does not necessarily have to have a tiny original mintage to become highly desirable. Sometimes the key factor is the survival of coins in exceptional condition. The 1946 Philadelphia Wheat Penny had nearly 1 billion pieces struck, so the basic date and mint combination is not scarce. However, collectors searching for extremely high-grade examples face a very different situation. PCGS's data shows a much smaller population at high grades, and its commentary specifically indicates that the 1946 P becomes difficult to locate in MS65 and higher and very tough in MS67. That is where the phrase, condition rarity, becomes important. Millions of old pennies may have survived, but only a small portion can meet the demanding standards of advanced collectors looking for superb surfaces, strong strikes, attractive color, and outstanding preservation. This creates a fascinating collector market in which the same date can have a modest value. Number 5. If you have ever come across an old 1951 Lincoln Wheat Penny with no mint mark, do not overlook it. A small 1-cent coin can carry an incredible amount of American history, and when a 1951 Wheat Penny is preserved in excellent condition, it can become especially interesting to collectors. The 1951 Lincoln Wheat Cent was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, and because Philadelphia cents traditionally carried no mint mark, the absence of a mint letter on this coin is completely normal. What makes a beautiful example exciting is not simply the missing mint mark, but the combination of age, original surfaces, sharp details, attractive color, and overall preservation. According to PCGS, the 1951 Philadelphia issue had a mintage of 284,576,000 pieces, making it a significant issue from the final decade of the classic wheat cent series. So when collectors see a 1951 example in unusually high grade, the conversation can move far beyond its original 1-cent denomination. In today's collecting world, condition is one of the biggest factors that can transform an ordinary old penny into a highly desirable numismatic piece. That is why a well-preserved 1951 no-mint mark wheat penny deserves a very close examination, especially if the coin has strong original color and outstanding eye appeal. To understand why this coin attracts attention, we need to travel back to 1951. The Lincoln cent design had already become one of the most recognizable coin designs in American history. Victor David Brenner's portrait of Abraham Lincoln appeared on the obverse, while the reverse carried the famous wheat ears surrounding the words 1 cent and United States of America, along with the motto E pluribus unum. The wheat reverse design had been introduced decades earlier, in 1909, and continued through 1958, making the 1951 cent part of one of the most beloved eras of American coin collecting. The 1951 Philadelphia cent was made from a bronze composition of approximately 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, measured about 19 millimeters across, and weighed approximately 3.11 grams. At the time, this was simply a working coin designed for everyday commerce, passing through stores, pockets, cash registers, and countless transactions. But decades later, those same characteristics have turned the coin into a historic collectible. Every surviving piece represents a tiny physical connection to early post-war America. That historical connection is one reason wheat pennies continue to attract generations of collectors. Now let's look closely at the unique features that make a 1951 no-mint mark wheat penny recognizable. On the obverse, you will find Abraham Lincoln facing right, with the inscriptions Liberty and In God We Trust surrounding his portrait, while the date 1951 appears in front of his image. The important point for beginners is that a Philadelphia minted 1951 cent does not need a letter beneath the date. In other words, the absence of a mint mark is exactly what we expect from the Philadelphia issue. On the reverse, the famous wheat ears frame the central inscriptions, creating the classic appearance that makes these coins instantly recognizable. Collectors also pay close attention to the quality of the lettering, the sharpness of Lincoln's portrait, the definition of the wheat ears, the rims, and the overall surface preservation. A truly attractive specimen can display strong detail and pleasing surfaces that immediately separate it from heavily circulated examples. The color is also important. Professional grading services commonly distinguish between brown, and red examples, with original red coloration commanding substantial attention in the highest grades. PCGS specifically identifies the 1951 issue in brown, and red categories, showing how much importance collectors place on the coin's preserved original appearance. The phrase, "excellent condition," is particularly important when discussing the potential collector appeal of this 1951 wheat penny. Coin collectors do not judge condition simply by saying that a coin looks old or shiny. They examine wear, contact marks, scratches, color, luster, strike quality, and preservation. A coin that has remained sharply detailed and attractive for more than 7 decades can command dramatically more interest than a heavily circulated example. This is where grading becomes one of the most important parts of the story. A professional grading service can authenticate the coin, evaluate its condition, assign a numerical grade, and, when appropriate, identify its color designation. For the 1951 Philadelphia cent, PCGS notes that examples become substantially scarcer at the very highest mint state levels, with MS-67 and higher pieces described as very scarce and capable of commanding significant premiums over lower-grade examples. NGC likewise notes that the 1951 issue is rare in MS-67 red, despite its generous original mintage and relatively strong survival in mint state. This is an important lesson for collectors. The real excitement surrounding a common-date coin can emerge when the coin reaches an exceptional level of preservation. And now we reach the part that attracts the most attention: market value. A 1951 no-mint mark wheat penny can have dramatically different values depending on its exact grade, color, certification, eye appeal, and proven auction history. It is important to understand that not every 1951 penny is automatically worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. Current reference data show ordinary examples at much more modest prices, while exceptional certified pieces can enter a completely different market. For example, USA Coinbook's February 2026 estimates place typical 1951 examples around modest values, with uncirculated examples generally reaching several dollars depending on grade. But the upper end becomes much more exciting. PCGS records an auction result of $10,350 for a 1951 Lincoln cent graded MS-67 at Heritage Auctions in 2006. That is a remarkable result for a coin whose original face value was only 1 cent. It demonstrates how dramatically condition rarity can change the financial significance of a coin. Thanks for watching and happy selecting subscribe my channel, like videos and share videos.